Hi folks, it's Mark Smith with Family Tree Brand Life Coaches, and we got a little different thing going on here tonight. It's Halloween, so I don't know how many of you are going to be joining us or not, but I tried to give you a little notice earlier. I had spent a real busy day seeing clients, and frankly I just needed a little trick-or-treat. I just needed a little break, so I went down to the beach. Hey music lover. And I walked Mr. Pauly, and I just sat with my feet in the ocean, and I just feel totally invigorated. So this is the patio. It's a little chilly, but I've got a space heater, and I got the palm tree. I've got some mixed nuts, biggest thing of mixed nuts you ever want to see. I've got some cheese, and I've got some questions, and I got you guys. Hey Sumit. So we're gonna have a little party, happy Halloween party. So I don't know how the lighting is, but it's sort of the best I could come up with. Boogie woogie booty boy. Mrs. Treat, it's funny, we both came out of our offices about 5 o'clock, and we were both trying to ditch doing the show tonight and go to the beach. Not that we don't love y'all. We got nothing but love for y'all, and we love doing the show. But we both were just cooped up, and she won the I need more space, I need to go and have some time award. So, but I got plenty of self-care in. So let me turn this thing on here so I can read. Hi Kelly. Jackie wants to go to the beach every time Mark and Renda go. Jackie wants to go. Let me turn this off here. Okay. Live chat. Okay, I am all set up. So, hey Sarah. I don't know about you guys, but I had trick-or-treaters tonight. We couldn't really. We were busy and we couldn't really pay too much attention to them, but we just left candy out front for them to sort of help themselves. Okay, so I wanted to start with a conversation about the new movie that's out. Thank you for your service. My glasses are all crooked. So this movie, Thank You for Your Service, is a movie specifically about PTSD. And I don't know how many of you have seen the movie, but it's really, really, really exceptionally powerful. And, it's about PTSD from people who got the PTSD from their service, and not how we got ours. Most of us got our PTSD from relationships with narcissists. But you don't hear me? Is that what you're saying? Let me move this a little bit closer. Sorry. Technical. Are you guys able to hear me pretty good? Emotional detective said she couldn't hear me. So let me know if you can hear me. Kelly hears me just fine. So, yeah, Renda and I went to the movie Thank You for Your Service. And it was so powerful. if you have been freshly shattered, I would not recommend that you go and see this movie, because it just was too powerful. I know that it was about, you know, PTSD suffered in combat, but I'm telling you, PTSD is PTSD, and to me, it just felt like a movie about us and our kind, and all of the symptoms were just so out of a textbook and so raw, and the acting was so good. It just I cried all the way home, and Renda didn't sleep well for the past okay, I got some advice. Somebody has a question. I'll come back to that. You guys are hitting me with too many questions here. I don't I don't have technical backup, so I'll do what I can. Indria says, tomorrow I have my first session with my therapist for my narcissistic upbringing. Any advice? Yeah, just be yourself. Just go in and be yourself with the therapist, and be authentic. That's the best advice I can give you, is just go and be authentic and open up your heart. But be careful. You know, all therapists are not safe, so be careful and try to open up your heart and just see how safe they seem. Jackie, you're talking about the symptoms of PTSD. Off the top of my head, you guys know what the symptoms of PTSD. One of my worst ones was trembling hands, panic attacks, flashbacks. In this movie, thank you for your service, they would actually have visual flashbacks of horrible things that happened. And I don't know if any of you have had those. I've never had those, but anxiety, sleep trouble, either you lose your appetite or gain too much appetite. You guys know the symptoms of PTSD. I guess another thing I wanted to talk about was just the importance of continued work on yourself. Sarah says she can't watch the movies because of PTSD. I didn't watch a movie I didn't go to the movie theater for like a year and a half because it was too loud and it was too intense, and I was afraid there'd be some sex scene that would traumatize me, so I just couldn't do it. So I just you know, stayed away from it. Okay, that might be a little better angle. So yeah, I remember that DID movie. I forget what it was called. That was scary. But so if you don't continue to work on your recovery issues, you'll start having symptoms come back. And I started to have anxiety issues come back, and some shame and some depression, and sleep issues got worse. And so I went back to doing my meditations, my Camille Ravikant, love yourself as if your life depends on it. Meditations. If you guys haven't gotten that book, Love Yourself as If Your Life Depends on It, Camille Ravikant, it's very simple. He just teaches you to play a piece of music for 7 minutes, and during those 7 minutes you just breathe in and say, I love myself, and you breathe out and you say whatever comes to mind. Breathe in, I love myself. Breathe out, whatever comes to mind. And I meditated for half an hour and just cried like a baby throughout it. And I could feel the chemistry in my body improving as I was just crying, and it felt like self-love was being installed. And that's how it worked for me years ago when there was a really bad shattering. So I'm fresh from Indira. EMDR work is the best thing possible for PTSD. I strongly recommend it. So okay, so a couple other things. Kelly says, why do we feel shame if we have not done anything to feel shame? How come someone can nobody can really make you feel shame? The shame is already inside you. Hi, Ellie. The shame is inside you, but if somebody says something, I blew my lights. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. I'm gonna go to plan B here. I am having issues here today. I think the lights shorted out is what happened. And I cannot get my flashlight to work. Okay. You guys hold on. Boo! Halloween! I'm gonna go turn the light on. So, it seems that we blew a fuse. So, on this Halloween, when there's ghosts and goblins about, I am going to go into the garage and I am going to hit the breaker switch. So, walking through the house, I don't know how many of the lights in the house don't work. Okay. Spooky. How come we never lost lights before until Halloween? Did you ever think of that? Okay. Now we're going to the garage. Isn't my car pretty? My wife is home and she's making a very loud announcement of her presence. There are ghosts about. I think I fixed it. There's my wife. She's arriving from her self-care journey. There's my cool motorcycle. Where's it at? Ooh. Okay. How many people are still with us? We have lights. Once again, we have lights. Okay. All is well. Power has been restored. We're going to get back to answering. My neighbor has set off some sort of loud device next door. I don't know what it is. Do you guys hear that? I don't know what that is. Okay. You guys still with me? Sarah says she loves the T-Birds. I've always loved mine. I tell you what, it's an elegant automobile. There's a chainsaw guy next door. That's a pleasant thought. A chainsaw reunion. If I show up all chopped up, you guys know. I mean, literally, it sounded like the guy started up a chainsaw. Seriously. Okay. Okay. Renda should make me some stew. Couple things to mention before we get into questions. If you guys haven't watched the video I made about the agony of the lonely lost child, Fargo wood chipper, check that out if you have any lost child stuff. I think it might speak to you. Okay, so Renda did the show last week, and I'm not sure how many of these questions that she was able to answer. So I'm going to try to just answer as many as I can. This is from Anne Marie, and she asked a question: can you discuss ways to manage emotional pain from marital infidelity? We have been trying to rebuild trust, but I always wonder if he's being faithful. So, I don't know how many of you, struggle with that. I'm sure a lot of you do. That's not an easy fix. It requires somebody who, hopefully isn't a narcissist, who's treatable. Somebody is saying hi from Australia and sending regards to Renda and Mark. Hi, Australia. But it takes somebody who is accountable, humble, teachable, motivated, able to trust the process of therapy, and isn't a narcissist. Not everyone who has an affair is a narcissist. So you get over it by them being highly accountable, by them always being where they're supposed to be, always being true to their word, always being trustworthy. And they are guilty until they're proven innocent. So over a 2 to 3 year period, you just assume that they're dirty and you check up their stories. And if they're clean and sober, it'll become evident, and they will earn that status of being clean and sober all over again. Okay, so we have a question from Jackie. If a young girl is in university and being attacked verbally by two of the roommates' parents, would you call this verbal abuse? Sure, of course. I would want to know, you know, sort of more of the story and, you know, what was behind that, but it sure sounds like bullying. I have another question from Anne. She says, what's your thoughts on a bisexual husband whose father was very kind and loving to his boys? I'm fascinated by this. Bisexual husband whose father was very kind and loving. Anne-Marie, I'm not sure where you're going with that. I think it's very possible that somebody can be both bisexual and fascinated and kind to their boys. Okay, I'm running out of juice on my other device here. I'm going to text Renda for some help. I need help. So, Kelly had a question. Let me back up and find it. Kelly, can you resend the question? I don't see it. Ellie Gray says, can you explain the difference between a somatic disorder and ongoing medical issues related to complex PTSD and accompanying medical problems of stomach and sleep disturbances? Oh, okay. I answered that one. Okay, thanks, Kelly. Ellie Gray, this is a really good... Could you point that light off of me? It's shining right on me. The difference between a somatic disorder and ongoing medical issues related to complex PTSD. As you guys know, so many of our medical issues, if you have complex PTSD, are really about that. Trauma affects the body so profoundly. And it affects your stomach. It affects your sleep. So, thank you, honey. That's much better. Okay, better picture. And then, honey, I need a charger that works. This charger isn't working for my phone, and I'm running out of juice here. So, okay, got some help. Now it's too dark. You couldn't move it? Okay. All right. This is fine. So much of complex PTSD is just torturous to your body. It's been 2.5 years for me, and honestly, you know, I made a recent video related to the Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne says it's a simple choice. You can either get busy living or you can get busy dying. Hey, Andy. You have got to take care of your body. You've got to exercise. You've got to meditate. For me, one of the best things that I do is I get in the hot tub. Trick or treat, Andy. But complex PTSD can absolutely, positively destroy your health. You can unplug this. It can destroy your health, as you guys know. So, good question. I have a question from Pascal from the Netherlands. And she wrote this several weeks ago. And Pascal says, hi, Mark and Renda. In response to your YouTube video called Developing a Narcissistic Abuse Sense of Self. Thank you, honey. I have a question, and you can use this in one of your live streams. I'm trying to stay up with you guys' conversation. I'll come back. If you have been in therapy, working on your true self, and you learn to have self-care and self-love after narcissistic abuse, are you at the same time recovering from codependency or the lack of self-love? In other words, does a codependent need for additional therapy to heal from codependency, or is developing a true sense of self enough in this healing process? So, to answer Pascal's question, to me, that's one and the same. Developing a sense of self and recovering from codependency are exactly one and the same thing. So that's what I would say about that. So, Music Lover says she's facing cancer, and narcissists hate sick people, and I have 6 autoimmune diseases already. So, Jackie, let me explain. Hi, Eileen. Happy Halloween. I have this little light machine, and it sort of shoots light into the woods, and it's shooting light onto my palm tree. So that's why it looks like it's sort of alive and sort of moving. So, okay. So, I have other questions here for you guys. Trick or treat. Hi, Diana. So I'm going to get into some other questions here after I have a little sip of coffee. We definitely had some trick or treat mischief going on, where all the lights went out, and I had to go into the garage and flip on the switch to get electricity, and just then the garage door opens. That was not staged. So, Lee B, can you explain complex PTSD symptoms? We talked about that earlier. They're symptoms in the living tissues of your body. They affect your brain. They affect your nervous system. They can give you panic attacks. They can give you flashbacks. They affect your sleeping. They raise your blood pressure. They cause your hands to tremble. I would refer you to my video, The 50 Symptoms of Narcissistic Abuse Syndrome. And that lists 50 of them. Okay. All right. Now, this is from Maria. I've been following family tree counseling for a few years, meditating and participating in self-care when able. I went no contact with my narcissistic, almost 70-year-old mother 2 years ago. Most days I'm fine, And every now and again at a family gathering or graduation, I run into her, and she says and does something that triggers me. So I have been avoiding all family gatherings, probably a good strategy. My high school reunion is this weekend with festivities planned for the next 3 days. I planned on attending but fell ill last night. While laying in bed, I received a text from my mother saying she was there hanging out with my classmates, with the father of my daughter, other classmates, and with my high school bestie. I felt like I was progressing nicely, but this bothers me. I now don't want to attend any of the other planned events. Am I wrong to feel this way, bothered? And do you have any suggestions on how to let things like this not annoy me so much? I feel like I progressed 3 steps forward and then 5 steps backward. I just want to be healed and whole at age 53 years old. I don't feel like I would have such a great experience. I don't feel like I have much time left to experience true happiness. Can you guys relate to that? Feeling like maybe time is running out on true love or true happiness? Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Much love to you and Renda. Okay, you guys are talking about yogurt. So, yes, it was an inappropriate intrusion of your mother to show up at your high school reunion and hang out with your ex-husband and your bestie. But you do what feels right to you. You do what you can do. I can tell you what an individuated person would do. An individuated person would go ahead and go to those events. The rest of the high school, celebration, and they wouldn't bat an eye. But because there's still some psychological enmeshment, you feel reactive, and don't let your mother ruin the high school reunion. Whatever other festivities that you have, and this is a week old, so maybe this is too late, but in general, for all of you out there, be yourself. Be truly yours. Be wholly belonging to yourself, Brené Brown says. And go where you want to go, when you want to go, and be authentic, and don't be intimidated by people trying to gaslight you and intimidate you. Okay, now this is a question from Dan, or a comment from Dan, known to you as Sideways on the highways. Even now, at age 34, I still don't know where I belong. I think Dan was talking about the lost child stuff. I feel like I'm hanging by a thread in each profession that I try. I just can't up and quit and not have a plan. I feel like I was always insufficient where I went for work. I was never really on the up and up. It's hard to focus on work and have an agenda when you feel so lost and so haunted. I just want to shut the world away sometimes. I don't belong out there. I'm not safe. To hell with stepping outside of my comfort zone. It's not safe. Do you guys relate to that? Not feeling safe, not feeling in your comfort zone. Sideways, brother, my heart goes out to you. The job of the recovery of a lost child is to find yourself within yourself, to find yourself professionally, to find yourself romantically, to find your niche and your place in the world. And this is raw pain, sideways. It hurts to not feel safe in the world. I got to tell you, there was a lot of lack of safety back in Indiana from a campaign of narcissistic abuse by proxy. So we moved here to South Carolina, and the beautiful thing is I get up in the morning and I walk 25 feet to work, and I wear shorts and I wear a t-shirt, and frankly I go days without leaving the house. I come out here to the patio and I might lay on the hammock or get in the hot tub, but that is just, I just feel so blessed by that, because you people, I don't know where Sideways is at tonight. You people are safe, and my clients are safe, and they're special, and they're just wonderful, and they're delightful. And it's nice to have a sanctuary. My little office is a sanctuary. This patio is a sanctuary. In your home and in your life, look to build sanctuaries. Look to build safe places. It could be a friendship, it could be a church, it could be a patio, it can be a bedroom, it could be a job. Find places that are safe, build walls around them, and enjoy your safety. I can't tell you how safe and how nurtured and how blessed I feel out on this patio. Every time I come out here, there's a little voice in me that says, you don't deserve this. But I think God in his graciousness, Sideways is okay. He wrote this about a week ago. He's a battler. He's fine. Trust me. Okay. I am not sure who this is from. But they're also talking about the lost child. Mark, thank you for the lonely child video you recently made. It resonates with me on so many levels I didn't even know existed within myself. Until my divorce in 2008, I considered myself the golden child, and my sister would be the lost child. But the roles have been, this is Ginger, by the way, but the roles have been reversed. I used to have it all, the lucrative career, the amazing husband, until sexual addiction destroyed our marriage, 4 beautiful children, while my sister was struggling to make ends meet after her divorce. Now my sister is thriving in her second marriage, and she has the career she's worked very hard to get as a critical care unit nurse. I am trying to manage my complex PTSD from having a father who is a narcissist, and an ex-husband who is a narcissist, and a current boyfriend. Can you guess? is also a narcissist. I am unemployed, living off alimony, which is about to run out. I have used this time to learn as much as I can about how to get out of my current toxic relationship. I have left, and because of extreme hoovering by my boyfriend, I have taken him back every time. However, every time I leave, it becomes more violent and more out of control. It all makes perfect sense now why I've switched into the lost child role. I know this long season of sadness, isolation, and complex PTSD will get better as I continue to educate myself through your videos and your book suggestions. My world got a little bit clearer today. I downloaded Brené Brown, her new book that you recommended, and I'm hopeful I can learn more about how to develop a sense of self at the ripe age of 48. 48, actually, Ginger, doesn't feel very ripe. When you get to be 58, then you ripe. Thank you for your encouragement for all the lost children to find themselves, even though I can totally relate to being a lost adult. I celebrate each day that I have learned something new, which will help make me have a better life for myself someday. I have faith in beautiful flowers and in palm trees. Will manifest in God's perfect timing. So Ginger covered a lot of ground there. What she was saying is she started out as the golden child, the family hero, but eventually, hey Stacy, the sparkling star. Stacy says, "Happy Halloween. What time is it there?" I'm not sure what time it is here. 9:38. We started late and we're going long. I took my brother trick-or-treating and I'm all dressed up. Stacy, the sparkling star, what are you all dressed up as? So Ginger was talking about you can start out as a family hero, but eventually, over time, as you're sort of taken out, a permaid, half cap, half mermaid, permaid. Nice. You can switch from a hero to a scapegoat. You can switch from a hero to a lost child. Sometimes the immature mascot sort of grows up and they can go from the comedian to the family hero. The next video on the family roles I'm going to make is I am going to make a video about the family hero. So anyway, those are the questions that I had to address from a couple weeks ago. What other questions do you guys have up, or what would you like to talk about? I'm going to nibble on cheese. Sarah dressed up as a narcissist. They look like everybody else, but I spooked myself. Okay, so Andy has a question. Mark, how can we tell if a person has narcissism or complex PTSD? My narcissistic ex said he had been in an abusive relationship, which was probably a lie, but I am fairly sure he was a narcissist. Sometimes I wonder. I mean, if somebody's complex PTSD is really raw, it really can look like borderline personality disorder, and it can look like narcissism. In this movie that I'm telling you guys not to go to, thank you for your service, about soldiers from Iraq really being just devastated and destroyed by complex PTSD. The way they acted, the behaviors that they had, they looked like they were crazy. And a lot of therapists, if they interview when you're shattered, they might call you a borderline. They might say that you have bipolar disorder. And really, you have a temporary condition where you are profoundly shattered and profoundly broken. And you're not narcissistic, and you're not a borderline. So, Andy, I don't know if that answered your question. Narcissism, they might have a narcissistic wound, but there is just a big fundamental difference between somebody who's an all-out narcissist and somebody who just is suffering from complex PTSD. I think it takes a lot of wisdom. It takes a lot of awareness. It takes a lot of clinical knowledge, whether you're a therapist or whether you're just a person that's suffering with these things. Stacy the Sparkling Star says, I'm finding everyone on YouTube changes and turns toxic. This one friend I met, I now believe is a covert narcissist. He was live 10 hours yesterday and doesn't work. How could somebody be live for 10 hours? Wow. There are a lot of people out there in YouTube land who aren't what they profess to be. So be careful. Be careful. See if their heart is humble and sweet and open and genuine and true. Not just that they have a lot of knowledge. So, Music Lover says she was the golden child until she revealed the narcissist to the narcissistic family. And then you got demoted from the golden child to being basically the family scapegoat, something that you probably have not recovered from. Music Lover says, for me, complex PTSD is these intrusive nightmares, sweats, screams, shaking, panic, scared of everyone and everything, and feeling alone and isolated. Well said, Music Lover. My lovely bride suffers from really bad nightmares, and that's a torturous thing. I still have pretty frequent nightmares that wake me up, and when you wake up, your whole nervous system is on fire. And the last thing it feels like you can do is fall back asleep. Let's read that again. Music Lover says, for me, complex PTSD is these intrusive nightmares, sweats, screams, shaking in panic. Isn't that horrible? Scared of everyone and scared of everything. The other night, I believe it was Friday night, after Renda and I watched that movie on PTSD, as I was leaving the movie theater, everything sort of seemed surreal. I couldn't drive, and it felt like nothing was safe, and nothing, like where we live wasn't home. Not our house, but the city. It felt like it wasn't home. I felt alienated and isolated from a sense of home. Andy says, I guess people with complex PTSD don't seek supply or cheat or have an inflated opinion of themselves. There you go. There you go. Sometimes Andy asks questions and he knows more about the answer than I do. He's really smart. They don't seek supply, they seek support. They don't cheat. I'm not saying that nobody ever with complex PTSD ever cheated. I'm sure that has happened, but it isn't their nature or their character, and they don't have an overly inflated opinion of themselves. They generally have an underly inflated opinion of themselves. Ellie Gray, do you come across individuals in therapy where their significant other falls into sociopath as opposed to just your regular narcissist? Well, that's interesting, Ellie Gray. Frankly, if somebody comes in and sees me and they have come up with the diagnosis of sociopath for their spouse, and I don't ever diagnose the spouse unless I meet them. So, to answer your question, I don't really meet a lot of sociopaths in therapy because they don't come to therapy. If they come to therapy, they're doing it to destroy the therapy or destroy destroy the therapy, or to destroy the therapist, or to destroy their partner. They're not coming for therapy. Little Miss says toxic behavior is toxic behavior. It doesn't matter what their diagnosis is. Emotional Detective says she's live 24 hours. Well, I'm live 24 hours too. Sometimes I'm asleep. I think she meant live on YouTube for 10 hours. I'm pretty sure. If it's hurting somebody else, then it's toxic. Here's a question from Gwen. What does mature intimacy look like with a non-narcissistic partner? Well, folks, all of us have been damaged pretty profoundly, and let's back up. What does mature intimacy look like with a non-narcissistic partner? Here's the thing. If you pick a really bad narcissist, you're not all that much healthier emotionally than they are. And even if you're blessed enough to pick somebody in recovery, you're not going to have mature intimacy. You know, I love my wife loves me, we're newly married, we're at the beach, Are we living in marital bliss? No, we're struggling a little bit, to be honest with you, because both of us are so broken. And the wonderful thing is we're both in recovery and we're both working really hard. But would I say that Brenda and I have consistent, mature intimacy? I would not. I would not say that. It's 50% my responsibility and 50% her responsibility. But it's all good. It's all grist for the mill. It's all an opportunity to heal and grow. The thing that killed the lights was my heater, and now I don't have a heater, so I'm getting a little chilly out here. So when I get to experience consistent, mature intimacy, I'll let you know. Stacy the Sparkling Star. I like your name, Stacy. She says she sweats easily all day long, and she's always hot and having nightmares. It's such a physiological disease, complex PTSD, and you know, it makes you sweat. Bummer. Stacy says, I'm extra sensitive to TV shows, music, movies, lights, noise. It's because you've been traumatized. To this day, I can't really have the radio on in the car. My daughter gets in the car and she wants to play some music, and I just can't do it. Someday, now if I'm in the car by myself about once a month and it's sunny and I'm in my convertible and I'm driving fast, hey Soren, how are you? I am enjoying an outdoor Halloween in the cold by the beach. How are you doing? But complex PTSD is a very, very serious, long-lasting condition, and you will be ultra sensitive to sounds. Sometimes my wife walks up next to me, and I tell her she just appears like the Holy Ghost, and she about gives me a heart attack. Because I have that startle response still. Okay. Jackie asks, do you think that PTSD could be triggered from the move? Well, if people moved like normal people and just moved and took a long time to put stuff away, that wouldn't be so bad. But when you have a sense of not wanting to feel out of control, then you're very OCD and you stay up late at night and you put everything in its way. And yeah, it triggered my PTSD just because I had so much compulsiveness in the way I handled it. You guys are giving great comments here. I really appreciate it. Music Lover says, I have therapy twice a week, and when I go in, I'm on the floor crying horribly. I remember going in and seeing Rick Gustafson, and I was in so much pain. I was crying on the floor in sort of a fetal position. Fernanda makes a good point that complex PTSD is different from PTSD and is formed by compound trauma, many incidents of trauma, except one single incident. I am behind on my comments here. Andy, some people don't want to hear that they were to blamed for getting with a narcissist, but sorry, you were. I have accepted that. People with healthy boundaries are not attracted to narcissists. I really affirm and agree with what Andy's saying, but there's one word that I would change, and that is blame. I would say it like this, Andy, that people don't want to hear that they are responsible for their own choices and their own decisions. Nobody's to blame. But that is true. They didn't put a gun to our head. Ooh, I'm way behind on the comments here. Let me catch up. Andy says, my dad is a narcissist and I was conditioned to be attracted to narcissistic abuse. Kelly talks about how come I jump out of my skin when a loud noise happens. It's part of being traumatized, that there is so much intense neurological hypersensitivity that loud noises or people sneaking up on you like they're the Holy Ghost, it just, when she shows up like this, I'm just like, ah! You're giving me a heart attack. And she tries to warn me when she comes off. Sarah says, Kelly, I'm so jumpy lately. Ellie Gray says, I hope that they include complex PTSD in the DSM-3 in the future. It's really interesting that you bring that up, Ellie. My lovely, super intelligent daughter, who I think might be a future president of the United States. I might be biased. Really smart kid, really ambitious, getting a master's degree in social work. And in social work school, they are teaching kids what they call a strengths-based approach, where they don't really believe in dysfunctional childhoods. They don't really believe in addiction. They don't believe in recovery. And you're basically saying there's nothing wrong with you. Let's build on your strengths, which is just utter and complete bullshit. But it's politically correct. So if sexual addiction isn't going to make it into the DSM-3, I have real questions whether or not complex PTSD. When I experienced my horrific PTSD, all my people in my office, they'd have these little minor operations, and Affleck would give them big fat checks, but I was more debilitated than 10 operations, and they said, sorry, we don't cover PTSD. I wish they would have. I really could have used that support. The Music Lover says the DMS6 will be out in 2020 and it will be in there. Well, that would be a wonderful thing if complex PTSD is in the new DSM-3. Jackie says, Mark, I have to say I am learning. I was being confronted by a relative over their beef with you. Yet again, after 10 years or so, I just ignored every word they said, and I kept nodding, yep. So what you're saying is you didn't get engaged in a reactive fight, you stayed detached. So Andy says he agrees that responsible is a better word. He's just keeping to the 200 characters. Is that all you guys get, is 200 characters for each comment? Ellie says trauma experts recommended it. Maybe the next one they will. I hope so. But you know what? Even if PTSD does make it into the DSM-3 or 6, the 3 is the last one I paid attention to because I just don't believe in them. It might be PTSD for stuff like soldiers of war. But will the world stand up and take notice to, by far and away, the most epidemic, huge, hurtful brand of PTSD, which is being in a relationship with a narcissist? That's never going to get paid for by an insurance company or put in a DSM-3. I just don't think that's going to happen. You guys know it happens. I know it happens. But there's just so much of a medical model that people don't understand being traumatized by, you know, being discarded abruptly and viciously. Emotional Detective says, I scream like crazy non-stop. Little Miss says, put some bells on Renda's shoes so you can hear her coming. Okay. Andy says, complex PTSD is the elephant in the room. Many psychotherapists don't know or acknowledge its existence. Isn't that terrible? Indira, after finding out about the narcissists in my life about 4 months ago, the PTSD got a lot worse. Is that common? Sometimes when you piece everything together and somebody really turns on the light, your symptoms will get worse for a little while. It's one thing to feel a burning sensation on your arm. It's another thing to realize your arm is on fire. Okay, so sometimes when you really understand the depth, the evilness, the depravity, the intensity, yeah, sometimes the symptoms really do get worse. Fernanda says, yes, Andy, although complex PTSD has horrible symptoms like flashbacks and panics and trigger and hypervigilance, they still don't make it into the DSM-3. Did anyone see, Andy says, the latest Vactin upload? He says that the politicians that fund research, as well as the psychiatrists that author the DSM-3, are in fact narcissists. and they don't want research done into it. It really makes sense to me. Kelly's eating pretzels. Music lover is on a medication that veterans take. Ellie Gray says complex PTSD is classified as depression and anxiety in the DSM-3 currently. Okay, so I'm getting back to the end of your comments here. Jackie says, Mark, the tree looks like little fingers in the background. My tree is haunted. Fernanda, I find what helps the most is to remember when you are triggered into your complex PTSD that you are not in real danger in the present moment. It's not a small palm tree. It's pretty big. It's just a bad angle. You'll see it in maybe some other videos. It's hard to remember that you're just being triggered because it just feels so real. In this movie, Thank You for Your Service, these heroes, these soldiers who risked their lives to fight for our country, to get services, they had to walk into a VA building and wait and wait and wait, and then be shamed and to be told to wait, and there's fluorescent lights, and then you wait. It's like being in DMV hell. A few weeks ago I had to go to the DMV, and it was when I was really fragile in my complex PTSD. I prayed all the way to the DMV, and I found out that it really wasn't that bad of an experience. In fact, there was the person who handled us was very kind, but the people in the movie, there was so much bureaucracy that it just made their trauma all the worst. Lee B., can you recommend a therapist who knows how to treat narcissistic abuse victims and how to find a good therapist? I could recommend a guy named Mark Smith. You can work with him via Skype. The only thing wrong with this Mark Smith guy, he's really good, but he's sort of expensive. So if you can't afford expensive PTSD treatment, my lovely wife, who is a life coach, her fees are a lot more reasonable, but it still might be out of reach for a lot of you. So what I've done on 3 occasions is I go to somebody on my insurance panel and somebody who knows a little bit about PTSD, and then I train them. I have them watch videos, and I talk about narcissistic abuse, and they end up learning a lot. But mainly what you look for in a therapist is somebody who cares, somebody who doesn't judge, somebody who doesn't have an agenda, and somebody who knows something about PTSD, and somebody who has a lot of empathy and compassion. That's about as good as it gets if somebody who really doesn't have the insight into narcissistic abuse. Fernanda says, Lee B., see Rinda or Mark? I'm being attacked by a moth. Fernanda says, Renda is good. She is my therapist, and she reminds me that I need to set an appointment. Lots of laughs. So, let me see what time it is. It's 10 after 10. And we probably didn't really even get started till past 8:45. Whenever I say that I'm going to start 8:30-ish, you can add 15 minutes to that. You know, when I went to the beach, I just couldn't pry myself away from it. I just needed to sit with my feet in the water, and that we have a beautiful, almost full moon, and it's chilly, but the water is warmer than the air, and I was just basking in healing waves of, to me, what I feel like is sort of the presence of God. So we'll go a few more minutes here, folks. So any other comments or questions as we sort of wrap down? Any other comments or questions as we wrap down? You know, I got to say this, that being in recovery works. Good night, Indira. You're most welcome. Good night. I know it's getting late. Happy Halloween. Recovery really works. Life is hard. If you grew up with a narcissist, and then you married a narcissist, and then you dated another narcissist, and you've had your fucking heart ripped out, life is hard, man. It's hard to love yourself. It's hard to not have a lot of shame. It's hard to not be spooked when somebody walks up from behind you. It's hard not to have nightmares. It's hard not to be tearful. It's hard not to have your hand shake. It's hard not to be obsessive compulsive. But recovery really does work. Keep watching videos, keep praying, keep meditating. I have this one client from Arizona who, her lifeline, her healing power, her breath, her religion is yoga. And she goes to yoga every day, and it's saving her. And it's powerful, and it's a beautiful thing. Jackie says, we appreciate that you left the beach for the show. Well, apologize for the technical difficulties. That space heater set off all the lights in this side of the house, and then we had quite an adventure in getting the lights turned on. Sarah says, this weekly meeting just gives me a boost in my step, and I am so grateful. And she says, thank you. And Sarah, you are most welcome. It's a joy for me to do this show. Sometimes the technical difficulty made it fun. You guys were having fun as I was walking around in the dark and trying to fumble my way through it. Andy says, Jackie, I have compassion for narcissists, but I wouldn't feel sorry for them. Music Lover says, I pray and I light my candle so that I'm not in the dark. Music Lover talks about she's reading some John Bradshaw. John Bradshaw is just one of my heroes. He was the pioneer. He was the original writer about recovery and about shame. A great man that we lost about a year ago, a little over a year ago. Jane Doe has opened up sort of a can of worms here where you guys are dialoguing back and forth. How can you get past feeling sorry for the pathetic narcissist? Is it a trauma bond? Yeah, it's a trauma bond. If you haven't healed your unresolved rescuing compulsions from parents who didn't protect you and who were narcissists and who trauma bonded you when you're a kid, it's so common to be chained, be imprisoned in a relationship with somebody you know's a narcissist. You don't love them, you don't want to be there, but the thing that keeps you there is this feeling sorry for their pathetic woundedness. It's like there's a part of you that says they're going to kill themselves if you leave. I can't tell you this, how many times I've run across this with clients. Beautiful people with lots of gifts, but they are imprisoned, not by the connection, not by anything positive, but by the trauma bond. So, amen. Emotional detective is sending flowers. Jackie says, I thought you planned it. You know what, Jackie? I did plan it. I thought it would be clever on Halloween night to have a blackout. And as I'm creeping into the garage, to have Brenda burst open the garage door and scare us. Wasn't it clever of me? Jackie says, sometimes we are prisoners in our own mind. I should write a book someday about, I'll get to that, Andy. I would write a book someday about the special 4 or 5 people that I've worked with who are the most trauma bonded. If you have hair, the stories would curl your hair. They would shock you. They would make you just so sad. Andy wants to know, who would you dress up as on Halloween? The first person who comes to mind, Andy, is Michael Jordan, as I'm such a big Michael Jordan fan. The truth is, I've always really wanted to be a black guy. And when I play basketball, I wear a skull cap, and I got the earrings, I got the tattoo. I just can't jump very high. And now I have this rather large belly. I don't look like Michael Jordan, but if there was a Michael Jordan mask that would take away my belly, I would want to dress up like Michael Jordan. He is the man. Andy says, I haven't dressed up for years on Halloween, but the last time I was Gomez Adams. Sweet. Sweet. Music Lover says she is not in any way trauma bonded. That's a good thing. Rusty Longshaft 1. Hi, Mark. Can't wait until I finally book an appointment. I know you specialize in getting through to mules. Was that you, or that I talked about getting through to mules? I talked with somebody a couple of weeks ago, and they said their spouse was a mule, and I eat mules for breakfast. If you got somebody who's even semi-workable, and you give me a chance to do an assessment and give them feedback, I will eat them for breakfast. That's what I do. Oh, how about that, Rusty? Nice to talk with you. Andy even grew a mustache for his role as Gomez. Jack Jackie said, I married the mule. Are you saying your husband is a jackass? Jackie, are you inferring that? I believe that you're inferring. The mule is somebody who's unteachable, stubborn, inflexible, arrogant, not open to therapy. Jackie, we have this thing where some of the questions you can hide or show them. I'm going to show yours. You said he's not a jackass. He's just a guy ass. His name is Guy, and he can be an ass. So, well, listen, folks. I'm cold. I have a big mess out here on my new. I got a new patio table, and it's really cool. It's really comfortable. It took me 8 hours to put together. Don't you hate when you buy things and then you got to put them together? But it's beautiful. I really do. I pinch myself and I go, this can't really be my yard and my patio, because it's like heaven on earth. Good night, Soren. Have a good night yourself. Sorry for the choppiness, the light problems, the planned Halloween light shortage. No, it didn't come from IKEA. I have a little shopping addiction issue, and I shop at a place called Overstock, where you get really cheap stuff and really big coupons and rewards, and the nice people just show up and leave the stuff on the front door. So I need to work on that. So good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Something I've noticed is my book sales have been just exploding, which is wonderful. Like I said, I have a book on abandonment, a book on shame, a book on narcissistic abuse recovery, a book on affair recovery. So you can get those on Amazon Kindle, or you can visit our website, familytreecounseling.com. I'm going to go see what my wife made me for dinner, and I'm going to crawl into my hot tub. So I love you guys, and I enjoyed doing the show tonight. We might have Miss Renda back next week. She just needed more time. So thank you for everybody's participation. Thank you for the wonderful comments. Thank you for the support. Power on, peeps. Me be outie. Me be outie. Nice. All right, folks. Me be outie. See y'all.